Welcome to High Plains History, everyone. I'm joined by Russell Dauer with the Donut Stop. So I want to talk a little bit about the Donut Stop. You guys have been open for over 50 years, kind of a staple here in Amarillo. So tell me a little bit about how the Donut Stop got started.
So before I was born in 1974, Rose and Jim Cates started it just on a whim, on a lark. Really, they thought it'd be a fun thing to do. They got it going. I think the first location was around 34th and Georgia, and shortly thereafter there was a second location on North Grand Street, and they did well over 40 years. And 12 years ago, my wife and I were approached about possibly becoming the new owners on the payment plan, of course. And here we are. We're in our 12th year of ownership, and that makes, I guess, the Donut Stop about in its 52nd year, something like that.
And so, how many locations do you guys have now?
5. We were up to 7 at one point, and COVID trimmed us back a little bit. But we're running 5 and holding steady there.
And so, tell me a little bit. I think one thing that makes Donut Stop unique is the different buildings, the different looks of the building. I think that's what makes Donut Stop really unique too. Is the one on Bell does not look like anything else on the one like you said on Grand. They don't look anything alike. So that I think to me also makes Donut Stop really unique here in Amarillo.
Okay, so there's 2 extra iconic buildings, the one on Bell and I-40, and then over on 4500 Canyon Way, we call the 45th store. So Rose and Jim, one of their sons was an architect. And as they had done well over the years and wanted to build a new building, a palace as I call it, but they had their son design those 2 buildings for them. And so that's what gives them a unique look. And of course, Bell and I-40 is on the interstate, so we get a lot of travelers, and they always say, now, what did this used to be? They think it had to be something else. It couldn't have possibly been. And I said, well, it was always designed to be a donut place. And so it doesn't always make sense to have a giant building to sell dollar donuts out of, but we're glad to have them. It's unique, and get a few magazine articles out of the deal and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit about how you guys were approached to get involved with Donut Stop. How did that come about?
Sure. My wife knew them previously, but then they went their separate ways, and so this is probably 12 years ago now. They were in their mid-60s and had done well for themselves. And, how about retirement? As you start thinking about retirement around then. And so my wife's came to their mind as someone they thought might be able to keep this thing rolling. And so we initially were going to start one in Lubbock, because my wife was telling me what a great business it was. I didn't really know about the donuts and the history of the Donut Stop at that time. And so we didn't get very far down the road of starting one in Lubbock before they said, you know what? What would y'all think about just buying all these and taking over these? And we said, well, that sounds great. We don't have any money. So, but of course they didn't want all their, it's, a payment plan type deal. So that's how we were able to be in the fortunate position to carry on the tradition, we hope.
Yeah, and keeping the Donut Stop, alive and here in Amarillo, how important was that for you guys?
Well, I didn't know how important it was at the time until I started working in the business. My wife already knew, and lots of people already knew about Donut Stop. And one of my favorite things to do is just to kind of work as a cashier in the store and visit with the people that come and go, and they tell me things about the Donut Stop that I never even knew from way back when I was a little kid. And so it's almost it's a point of pride, but we also take it as a responsibility, really. Obviously, it has to operate as a business still, but we're proud that to be a part of the community, and that they hold us up as a go-to place, and kind of almost an institution, if a donut place can be an institution in a town, and that makes us feel good. We hear travelers make, they may live in Dallas and they're going to Colorado. They make a point to make sure they're running through Amarillo during the morning when we're open, and we'll see an RV pull up, and we hear that just 3 or 4 times a week, and it makes us feel good, and it makes us want to keep on doing it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing is like I think when you think of Amarillo, I think breakfast or something like that. It's like got to go to the donut stop. We got to go to the donut stop. We got to get some donuts for the morning. We got something to do. Let's go to the donut stop. Get something real quick, so we can have something for this morning.
Yes, and it's a box will feed a lot of people, and of course we're not as cheap as we used to be, but nothing is, and it works pretty good. We'll often see, here comes the confused dad with a list in his hand, and he's got a family waiting at home, or especially during the holidays and different times, people have family in from out of town, and they may have grew up here, but they've moved off, and so they remember it, and we hear that a lot too. Often they tell us this is our go. We have to have this when we come back to Amarillo. It reminds us of home, and things like that really make you feel good about it, and want to keep it going.
Yeah, I think for me, like anytime I think of like donut stop or something like that, it's like we'd have something to do in the morning, like my grandparents, like some kind of like yard work or something to do, and my grandpa would be like, "We're gonna have donuts from the donut stop. They're gonna be there, and then we'll get started on the work that we got to do." Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Well, maybe that cheers you up
Yeah,
a little bit about
yeah.
and all the raking or mowing
Yeah.
or whatever you're gonna
Yeah.
have to do, and yeah, it's we get a lot of crews. Even other restaurants will come in and they'll get 2 or 3 dozen, and I'll see they're wearing their restaurant name. I say, "Are these for?" Yep, these are for our people in the kitchen. Got to keep them happy.
And so you talk about that. How important is it for you guys to keep? Because again, another thing about the donut stop is you guys are real cheap to make sure you're feeding people, and that's the one thing I always remember pulling up to the drive-through and getting some donuts, and they're really cheap. Seems like the cheapest donuts you can get here in town.
Yeah, well, and we monitor the other places too, and I'm sure they watch our prices, and we're all pretty close together. But donuts in general are a cheaper option. Certainly less than a steak for breakfast. But so we've actually 12 years ago when we started, donuts were 85 cents, and we've crept up, and now they're $1.50 at least at our place. They're probably give or take a dime or two in other places. And interestingly, there used to be, you may be familiar with the saying, "I'll bet you dollars to donuts that such and such." Well, that came from so long ago that it meant I'll bet you something, your dollar that's worth something versus a donut was probably only worth 10 cents. And here we are, we've come so far, a donut actually is worth more than $1 now, and that's just a reflection of where prices have gone since the COVID and all that. But we certainly try to stay as cheap as we can, and we're able to do that you can't do that unless you have volume. And so we're mindful of that to try to keep everybody happy and keep them coming back, and that's how we're able to continue.
Yeah, and another thing about Donut Stop too is you guys also I know have Plains Dairy and Plains Milk inside the Donut Stop too. So how important is that to work with another Amarillo kind of institution?
Well, we recently switched to Gandy's, but they're from around here too, I gather. And that was just economics. They were a little bit cheaper, and we were often running with Gandy's now.
And so tell me a little bit about, this is always a question I've always wondered. What are some of those popular donuts that you guys have that people want? They come in and you're like, yep, I know that's what we're going to get today.
The cherry is far and away the most popular, probably followed by blueberry cake. And this is a daily thing. Even my wife and I were just talking this morning. We call each other, such and such store's out of cherry. Does a different store have cherry? We'll drive over there, and if they have what we think is extra cherry, we'll bring some cherry back over there because you can just see the disappointment on somebody's face if they come in later towards the day. We start to run out of a few things, and it just kills me when someone comes in and wants a dozen cherry and we don't have it. And they could have come from out of town. We get people, well, we came from Clovis, we came from Portales, and but cherry's far and away the most popular.
Does that surprise you that it's the most popular?
It surprises me personally. It's no offense to cherry lovers out there. It's my least favorite of the flavors. It's pretty strong to me in the cherry, but I think most places do a strawberry. Not necessarily here in Amarillo, but just nationwide donut places in general. It's more of a strawberry thing, and for whatever reason, Rose and Jim went with cherry back in the day, and we're making as many as we can.
I know that's one of my sister's favorite. She loved cherry, and I was a chocolate guy, so it was like my parents always had to make sure there was a cherry donut and a chocolate donut ready in the box.
And the people with the list their eyes get big if you don't have, because they know that's for the little girl or the sister or the brother. That everybody's got their favorite, but cherry and blueberry cake. If a store's out of cherry, we've got a problem.
And I mean, when it comes to the certain days or certain holidays, you guys do specialty donuts? I know.
Sure, Valentine's Day's coming up, and so we'll do a heart-shaped donut. And initially, those were just kind of a thing we put on the tray to look neat and go along with the holiday season. And those have really taken off too, such that we couldn't keep up with demand. Those used to be the price of a donut. We've had to switch those over to the price of a filled item, just so someone wouldn't walk in and order 15 dozen of them and wipe us out. So speaking of Valentine's Day coming up, give us a call ahead of time and let us know if you're wanting a bunch of those, just to make sure we'll have them for you.
Yeah.
And of course, Halloween, we do different colors, different color sprinkles. 4th of July, different color sprinkles. Christmas. So we try to. Sometimes it's just a different color sprinkle, which is a little thing, but people go, "Oh yeah, let's get that one."
And what does it mean for you guys to do something like that, where maybe it's just a little thing, but it's something special that the community enjoys?
I've found out that about so many different things in customer service is if you'll just put in a little bit of effort, a little bit of attention, it goes a mile for that person. And they walk out with a smile. They say, "Oh, I had a great conversation with that guy," or he told me something about the business I didn't know, or a lot of times they'll tell me about the things I didn't know. There was, I had a health issue recently, and a lady came in and said, my wife knew her, I hadn't met her, and she had bought her donuts, and she said, "Are you feeling better?" And I said, well, yes, I am, thank you. She said, well, she was in a prayer group with my wife, and she said, well, I was praying for you. And I said, well, thank you very much. And she said, oh, I forgot a coffee. And she started to get her purse back out, and so I just handed her a cup and said, "Well, there's a fair trade for your prayers," and it just her face just lit up. It made me happy, made her happy, and it was such a little thing, and little things like that just go a mile. If you can give somebody a little bit of attention, not just okay next, but if you want to visit, come in, I'll visit with you.
Yeah, and I know you guys do a lot of other stuff for the community too, whether it's, providing donuts for, certain people, or, maybe it's, APD or something like that. What does it mean for you guys to also do stuff like that too in the community where you're providing donuts for certain things?
Well, we're happy to. And on that point, unfortunately, we are absolutely inundated with requests all the time, and we've had to start saying no more than we liked, and it just kills us. But certain charities, we're certainly happy to. If you're in with my wife, you're gonna get yours. You're gonna get yours. Of course, you got to give back. if the community supported you all these years, here we're talking about 52 years, it wasn't just because, it was just a strict transaction. There's you got to give back when you can. But like I said, I wish we could do it all. But as a business, you can only do so much. But for what we're able to do, we're happy to do.
Yeah, and I always loved when we get donuts here of, again, maybe Beth Duke's bringing it in or something like that, because it's like Beth Duke's going into supporting you guys, and then she comes in to support us. It's just
Community
it's the
around it.
community
It's the
thing.
circle. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an old, I get the story wrong, but there's an old, there's $1 going around in the community. The baker, the cobbler comes in and buys the bread, and then the baker needs a pair of shoes, and that dollar can just go around, and it's not just the dollar, it's the goodwill associated with all that too.
Yeah. Russ, I don't know if you can answer this or not. Do you know if the kind of the flavors that was started in the beginning kind of have stayed the same, or if it's just kind of morphed and changed?
I hope it stayed the same. We certainly didn't make any changes. Our suppliers sometimes have to make a change in little ingredients here or there, but as far as we're concerned, the mix has stayed the same for 52 years. And so I mentioned we're 12 years in ownership. When we first came in, the employees were like, okay, what are we doing? What's the new? How do we? And we were like, no, we're not changing anything. What'd you do last week? Okay, we did. Okay, do that again, because that's what's worked for all these years. Let's do that again. And I hope we're going to do it as long as it works. So.
And I love that. I love not changing anything. Like
A lot of people didn't know. Well, I still get people today. Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I'm kind of tall, and Jim was on the tall side too, and so they assume I'm his son or something, and a lot of people don't know that that the ownership even changed because they didn't notice any change in the stores or any. People come and go, but a lot of the same faces are still there, and I like that, just continuity. You can count on what you expect. That's generally what you're going to get at Donut Stop. And we've added a few new things. We had so many. I don't know if it's travelers. They see donuts and they assume full breakfast, and we were just donuts. And we had so many start to come in and ask for a protein, kolaches. Kolaches can mean all different kind of things. With us, it's a sausage link with some dough wrapped around it, or some breakfast sandwiches. So we ended up adding those in probably 8 years ago, just from customer demand. People would come in and kolaches, nope, and turn around and walk out. And we start thinking, wait a minute, we got to. So we've added to a little bit, but we've certainly haven't taken any away from the originalness.
Yeah, and I mean and how has that response been when it comes to adding that kind of stuff, the kolaches and stuff like that?
Well, good. Donuts are still the focus for us, but a lot of times you come in. Maybe a dad brings a family in, or a whole family comes in. Not everybody wants something sweet for breakfast, so it's nice to have a savory option too. To me, it tends to be the dads or the construction worker type that may something a little bit more hearty in a sausage link or a sausage patty.
Yeah, maybe the person that's maybe, like you said, maybe on the road or something like that. They want like I said, that maybe something a little extra protein and stuff like that.
But to me, the donuts are pretty substantial themselves. One fills me up. I'm a full size dude. You don't realize how heavy a box of 12 is. They'll stick out 2 fingers like they're going to hold the whole box. And I'm like, no, this is a 2-hand deal, sir.
Yeah.
And when you grab it, you realize there's some food in there too.
Yeah. You get one of those cinnamon rolls and you're pretty full.
Yeah, you're off and running.
Well, Russell, it's been a joy and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Again, thank you for keeping up Donut Stop for these last 12 years and keeping that tradition going. And then, obviously, thanks for feeding Amarillo for this time period.
Well, thank you for your interest, and we certainly couldn't be here without. You can't trade on your name alone. Your product's still got to be good year after year, and that's what we're going to try to do. So we thank the community and the public too for their support. We wouldn't be here without it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there's only, I think, one other thing to say. Go get some Donut Stop. Like, go over and get some Donut Stop and support a business that's been going for 52 years. So, again, Russell, thanks for joining us here on High Plains History.
Okay, glad to. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah.